Okay, so we will start our class. So we'll start from today's what we are going to cover is the second part of second chapter. So this will finish second chapter. So we'll start from our Mangala Prarthana. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhirbhavatu me sada. So first we will see the Prahelika, the riddle of second chapter. So again it is the same thing, ko ham, who am I. So here you have to understand this and guess like who is the what is the what actually is what this riddle is trying to ask. So we'll read this first as it is in the shloka form, then we'll try to understand it. So it is Kimichhati Naraha Kashyam Bhupanam Ko Rane Hitah Ko Vandyah Sarvadevanam Diyatam Ekam Uttaram. So as we discussed last time and other classes also, like most of the time when something starts from ka and it is not a proper different noun, so it's a question. So here also you see kim is a question, then ka is a question, then again ka is a question, and this is not a question. So you can match it with the question marks. So let's expand it. As we know, like in Sanskrit shlokas, for satisfying the meter and to make it compact, few sentences gets fused, and resulting what you see, understanding from that may not be that easy. So we'll expand it. So when we expand, it will be written like this: Kim ichhati naraha kashyam bhupa ko kah rane hitah kah vandyah sarvadevanam diyatam ekam uttaram. Here some typo is there. It should have been bhupanam. It is bhupnam. So now let's see with this expansion what the every word pratipad artha is there, meaning is there. So kim, so again you can check from here the same pattern we are following. Green is namapada and red is kriyapada. So kim ichhati naraha kashyam. For this, kim is what, ichhati is the verb. You can again check with the ending ti. Ich, to wish. Ichhati means someone is wishing. So wishes. Narah is human. Kashyam. Kashyam is another way of writing what you learnt last time. Kashi Nagare. So it is for in Kashi. Then Bhupanam. It is of kings. But as of now I have written kings, not to confuse, because this only is required here. Kah. Kah, because of sandhi, because of some changes, it was written as ko, but it is actually kah. Kah means who pumlinga. Rane, rane is like nagare, in battle, and hitah is desired. Next line is again kah, which is who. Vandyah, this is the and ya combined. Vandyah, worshipable. Sarva devanam. Sarva means all, devanam means among. Diyatam, this also is a verb where it is with request, it's a mood. So diyatam ekam, one, uttaram, answer. So now with this word meaning you can frame like some near meaning you can frame. But let's make our own. So naraha. So this also I think we discussed earlier, like in Sanskrit, because of the pattern is not required, something subject, verb and this all. So all the poets or shloka writer, they move the sentences here and there. So if you have to make a prose kind of meaning, you have to rearrange the sentence. So here, if you rearrange the sentence, so you can rearrange it like Naraha Kashyam Kim Ichhati. Human in Kashi, what they want. This is the first clue or question. Then second one, if you again rearrange, so Bhupanam kings Rane Kah Hitah. What kings want in when they are battlefield? Then this one is straight. Kah Vandyah Sarva Devanam. Who is praised among all the gods? Diyatam Ekam Uttaram. Please give. This is for please give Ekam Uttaram. So all the three questions you answer it into one. So this is the riddle. So if you see, you can see in book, but still, Kim Ichhati Narah Kashyam. So in Kashi, what a human wants. So everyone, I don't know for nowadays, but earlier, like people want to die in Kashi because it is said if you die in Kashi, you will go to Swarga. So that is Mrityu. First answer is Mrityu. And then Bhupa Nam Kah Rane Hitah. What a king or kings want in battlefield. So they want Jaya, Vijaya, victory. So that is Jaya. Kaha Vandyah Sarva Devanam. Who is worshipped in all the gods? That is Mahadeva, Shiva. So Diyatam Ekam Uttaram. So if you combine these two, you will get Mrityunjaya, and this is also the same, that is name of Shiva. So you can give one answer as Mrityunjaya for this. So hope this is clear, because this is very simple. So there is nothing. While reading now, if you see this will be easy if you know that this is made of this. Diyatam ekam uttaram. Otherwise, if you don't know what it is make, then while reading it may not be that easy to read. Let's move. So next thing is Sangrahya Vishaya from book. So today our subject is Lord Ganesha. The first shloka is, this is a very nice dhyan shloka. So before going here, I am no expert in this, but my understanding I can share. So there are different kind of shlokas. So some shlokas are just like you saw just here. So this shloka is also shloka, and it is also in Sanskrit, but it is not related to any, like most of the people think Sanskrit is only for some religious spiritual activities or like that. So it is not like that. All Sanskrit has all sciences, whatever we have currently, even more than that. And even mathematics also is written in shloka. So when you see shloka, you have to see like what category it is and where you should put the emphasis. So all these shlokas, whatever we are reading, like last time we read for Guru and this time we are reading for Ganesha, all these shlokas, they are for mostly for dhyana. Means once you are going to start your puja, you chant these shlokas to means closing your eyes to think of that particular deity in your mind. So here in these kind of shlokas, if you are not able to pronounce it very properly, it is fine. But what is required, that you should understand the meaning. If you don't understand the meaning, then it is mechanical thing. So you are speaking something thinking it will do some good for you in future or in some other loka. So I don't feel like for educated people that is a proper way. So what my point to talk about this is, like whenever you are reading any dhyana kind of shloka where you are before puja or in puja, you should know the meaning of that. If you know the meaning of that, then only you can concentrate on that particular thing. And second type of or third type of shlokas are which are powerful phonetic arrangements, like shlokas from Veda and all. So in Veda, whatever shlokas are there, you are not supposed to break the rhythm or break the swara, whatever the way it is, you should pronounce that same way. There, if you don't know meaning, no problem, because that particular sequence is going to help you. The way the shloka, the pronunciation or the phonetic vibrations are happening, they only will going to help you. But here in this one, if you don't know the meaning, you will not be able to meditate, because these shlokas are only for initial concentration, calling the god, or if they are puja on. So here you need to know the meaning, there you need to know the correct pronunciation. So with that, we'll try to understand this meaning. This is a very nice dhyana shloka, very, very nice shloka. So it is Agajanan Padmarkam Gajanana Maharnisham Anekdam Tam Bhaktanam Ekdantam Upasmahe. So by meaning, it is initially, if you see, only few things you may get. Gajanana means it should be related to Ganesha. Then Ekdanta, again it should be related to Ganesha. We'll see how beautiful this shloka is. So we'll again try to expand this. So Agaja, Anan. If you see, this all is here. Agajanan, Padma, Arkam, Gajananam, Ahan, Nisham. This is here. What is the explanation of first two padas? Then last two are Anekadam, Anekadam, Tam, Bhaktanam, Ekdantam, Upasmahe. Ekdantam, this O is Upasmahe. Second stanza is not that like compressed. So now we'll see the meaning. So Agaja. So Aga means mountain, and Ja, if Ja is there, Dirgha Ja is there, means it is for Strilinga born. Like we say Anuja. So Anuja means, Anu means following, after. Ja means born lady or Strilinga. Anujah, if I say Anuj, like in Hindi people say, this is my Anuj, means he is younger brother. Why? Because Anu is after, Ja is telling he is a male, Pumlinga. So here Agaja, Agaja means a lady born from mountain. So we know like Parvati was mountain's daughter. Anana, Anana means face. Padma means lotus. Arkam means sun. You can see in Surya Namaskara, Arkaya Nama, like that. So what is this complete thing is one word. So in Sanskrit there is like we are breaking the sandhi, there is one other thing is there, that is called as samasa. That is at high level. So currently will not go there, but for our meaning understanding we'll try to see. In samasa what happens, many words which are related with each other, they come together and they are fused by using grammar rules, so that they whole 3-4 words become one word, and they give some different meaning than all 3-4 were giving separately. So what meaning here is, that we'll see. So it is said like a lotus opens when sunlight falls on it, right? So same thing is trying to be said here. Agaja Anand. So Parvati's face is like a lotus. Lotus, whatever lotus faced Parvati, it opens or it delights, it smiles when Gajanana comes. So Gajanana means Ganesha is Surya, like Surya for Parvati's lotus like face. So whenever she sees Ganesha, she smiles, or that lotus or that face blossoms or blooms. Gajananam, Ahan. Ahan again, we use it every day, but we don't know the word. Ahan is for day and Nisham is for Ratri. So if you see, I don't know how many people use currently, but Purvahn, if you see Aparan, so AM, PM, the way we write. So that is Ahan word there only. And if you see Saptaha, what in Hindi is said, so that is Sapta. Sapta means 7. Ahan means days. Saptaha is 7 days. But now people mostly say hafta, which is not Hindi and not Sanskrit driven. So ahan is that. Ahan means day. Nisham means night. Anekadam. Anekadam means who is dam, boon giver, and he gives many boon. Tam, him. Bhakta nam. So again it is Bhakta nam should come first and then should come Anekdam. Ekdantam, he has single tusk, everybody knows. And upas mahe is a verb. So you should get doubt like why it is not ti or te or tah type verb. So it is because it is a different type of verb. It means like it is for uttam purusha, we. When we is there, like currently we use pathamah. It is like that, upas mahe. This verb we will read in chapter 3. So total, if we see the meaning of this, so that Gajanana, we pray to that Gajanana who is like sun for Parvati's lotus-like face. We pray day and night, and who gives his devotees many boons. Like that one-tusked Ganesha, we upasmaye, we worship or we meditate upon. This is the first sloka. Then second one is very simple and it is, I think everybody knows. So Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Sama Prabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. So here there is nothing much to break. Vakra Tunda, they are separate, you can say. Koti Surya Sama Prabha, these are separate. Nirvignam, Nir last sloka also we had seen. And then Kuru, this is the verb. Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. Let's see the meaning. So Vakratunda, trunk is curved. Vakra means curved, something which is not straight. Sarala Vakra. In Jyotish also people say this particular graha is not moving in straight, or vakri, they became curved. Their path is not straight now. Mahakaya means big body. Kaya is body, Maha is big. Koti is for crore, Surya is sun, Sama means equal, Prabha means brightness. Nir, wherever you will add nir, it will become without. So like last time we discussed Nirmala. So mala means dirt and nirmala means no dirt. So here vigna means obstacles, nirvigna means without obstacles. Kuru means do. Me is for mai or mine. Deva, God. Sarva karyeshu, in all works. Sarvada, always. So here this is for praying, where we are praying to again Lord Ganesha, and we are referring him like Vakratunda Mahakaya, and his brightness is like crores of sun, equal to crores of sun. And the person who is praying is asking like, my all the works whatever I start, make them always obstacle free. So if you understand this now and then close your eyes and then you pray, put these words in your puja and go along with the flow, then this kind of shlokas are sarthaka. Otherwise, if you do mechanical, with my limited knowledge, I don't feel like it is going to give any benefit at this time or any time later. We'll move to next this thing, Subhashitam. So today's Subhashitam tells us to do the work. So don't sit and think something will happen. Instead of that, you do the effort. This again is a very famous, anyone who has read Sanskrit in their basic school or something, they might have come across. So we'll see. Udyameneva siddhyanti karyani na manorathaihi na hi suptasya simhasya pravishanti mukhe mrigaha. So we'll again expand it. So Udyamen eva. So this is here Udyamen eva siddhyanti karyani na मनोरथैहि न हि सुप्तस्य सिंहस्य प्रविशन्ति मुखे मृगाः. So let's see the meaning. So udyamena, so by working, eva only by working, siddhyanti succeeds what? Karyani. Karyani is plural of karyam, work. So works get done or completed only by doing. Na manorathaihi. Mana is desire, man, ratha is chariot. So if you sit means just run the chariot driven by your mind and don't do anything, nothing will happen. Na hi suptasya simhasya. So how this for this thing, whatever formula they have given here, for that analogy is coming down. It is telling suptasya simhasya, if sleeping lion, if lion is sleeping, pravishanti mukhe mriga, no, none of the deers will come and enter in mouth of lion and become lion's food. What he's trying to tell, that even lion, who is king of the jungle and animal, you can food chart also, food table also, he sits on top. For him also, he need to do effort to get his food. So if you also want to be successful in any work, do the effort, do the udyama. So if you see here, few things grammatically, siddhyanti, this is verb and anti is there, so this is telling plural. So what it is pointing, whatever is plural in this, so this is plural. So karyani siddhanti. If you have to understand your own, you can start like this. These two are plural, so karyani siddhanti. But siddhyanti is again na is there, so na will go with verb. Karyani na siddhyanti. मनोरथैहि कार्याणि न सिद्ध्यन्ति. उद्यमेन एव सिद्ध्यन्ति. Like that you can understand. Like सुप्तस्य सिंहस्य मुखे मृगाः न प्रविशन्ति. The meaning is that simple. And moral is this only, like do the karma, because without that things will not move. Now we'll come to story part. So today's story is about a smart crow. This is again a very famous story, and here it is presented not to give you the moral of the story, but to bring the same concept in Sanskritam, so that you can see how simple or familiar this language also is, and you start using it. So you will see most of the story you will understand without any explanation, but again I have written everything, and I am sorry if there are mistakes, because 2-3 I have seen this. I did in quite fast because of Navratri I didn't had much time, so please excuse me if any error is there, and I will correct them later sometime. So ekah kakah asti, red things are verb, asti is. So ekah kakah asti, one crow. It is asti is a present tense, so you cannot say there was one crow. One crow is there. You can say saha bahutrishitah. So normal single simple way is like, once you say the noun, after that if the same sentence next sentence also going to reference the same noun, you don't repeat the noun, you start using pronoun. Like Rama went to school, and then you can say Rama went to class, Rama went to bathroom, like that. So these sentences will not look good. If you say Rama went to school, then he went to there, then he did that. So similarly here also, first he tells kakah asti, ekah kakah asti, crow is there, one crow is there. Then now for crow he is using saha to address, pronoun to address. Saha bahutrishita, he is very thirsty. Actually it should be was, but it's okay. Saha jalartham bhramati. Here also you can see ti is coming, which means this also is verb. He bhramati means roam. He is roaming for what? Kimartham jalartham, for sake of water. because he is thirsty. Tada, then at that time, Grishma Kalaha, that time it was summer. Kutrapi, this is combination of Kutra Api. Kutra means anywhere, Api means also. Kutrapi means anywhere. Actually, exactly we cannot translate. So, because every language has their own beauty, which cannot be represented by other. I am telling the split so that you did not go and look for this complete word. Kutrapi jalam nasti. Anywhere water was or water is not there. Nasti, no was. It is present tense. Kakaha kashtena bahuduram gachati. Again ti, this is the verb. So crow gachati. You can start using this. Kakaha gachati. Crow goes. Crow is going. Where he is going? Bahuduram. Very far. How he is going? Kastena. With difficulty. With kashta. Because he is thirsty. Tatra, there, saha, ekam, ghatam, pashyati. Again, ti is coming, verb. So, saha, ghatam, pashyati. Saha, ekam, ghatam, pashyati. He sees a pot. He sees one pot. Where? Tatra, there. If question was there, then kutra. Kutra means where, tatra means there. Kakasya ativa santoshaha bhavati. After seeing the pot, Kaka is very much satisfied or happy. Kintu ghate, but in the pot. Ghate is like Kashi Nagare, in the Kashi and in the Ghata. Swalpam, very less. Eva, only. Jalam, asti. But in that pot, very less water only is there. So now jalam katham pibami. So this is first person verb, Uttam Purush Kriya, me, pathami, pibami. So who should be using that? Kaka only can use that because he is telling. So jalam katham pibami, katham means how, jalam means water, pibami means drink, I drink. Iti, like this, kakaha, crow, chintayati, this is the verb, chintayati. So Kaka thinks that crow is thinking how to drink, how I should drink this water. Saha ekam upayam karoti. He does one, he plans something, some one thing he plans. Karoti is the verb again. Shila khandan. So many, Shila is small like rock, Khandan is piece. Khandan it becomes when you are telling it as an object. As of now, if you don't understand, it is fine. It will read it in other chapters going forward. Pebbles, anayati. Nayati, anayati. He brings. So what he brings? Pebbles, Shila Khandan, many piece of rocks. Ghate, ghate is same. Again here we have seen in pot. So in pot here, ghate purayati. Purayati means fills. He brings those things and fills into that pot. Jalam upariyagachati. Water comes above. If you see here ma is written because next is swara, like we read in last class. So water comes up. Kakaha, crow, santoshen, with satisfaction. Jalam pibati. He drinks water with satisfaction. Tataha gachati. Tataha means from there. Gachati means goes. So this is the story. Story is named as Chaturaha Kakaha. So it is a smart crow. So today we'll see little Vyavhara. There is one section in this chapter. It is in all chapter. Wherever in whichever chapter I will feel like I should discuss it, I will discuss. Otherwise, you can read your own. So Vyavhara means if you have to use the language or if you are reading any conversation of in Sanskrit, modern conversation, old conversation, so how to figure out what it means. That is in this section. So there are two words, kim and va. So they are used for questioning. So answer of these, any sentence, if you put kim or va, that sentence will become like a question thing. answer of that will be am. Am means yes. Na means no. So let's see few sentences. It's very simple. If you start using it, then it is not even worth mentioning also. So if you remove this va first, you say mata pachati. So meaning is mother cooks. Mother is cooking, right? If you add va, then it will become question mark. You will ask like mata pachati va, is mother cooking? So reply may be, if she is cooking, yes, mata pachati, mother is cooking. Or if you are saying na, then you will say na, no, mata na pachati, mother is not cooking. So this is va. Next again you can see same thing for Kim. Tvam pathasi. Question, it is not question. Tvam pathasi. You are reading. But if you add Kim, then it becomes Tvam pathasi Kim. Are you reading? So answer may be yes, aham pathami. I am reading. Or na, no, aham na pathami. I am not reading. So this is for normal daily uses. This thing I think it should have gone in your head, and if you start using it somewhere when you are talking to yourself there itself, if you don't have anybody to use, or you in group when you write, you can consider this using this. Next other thing is there in this chapter's this Vyavahara thing is two other words. They are Bhavan and Bhavati. So this is a respectful way of saying somebody, Madhyam Purusha. If somebody is in front of you, there is a way like you currently we know Tvam, and here it's another way of saying, that is Bhavan. Tvam is genderless, Bhavan has gender. So if you have a male or masculine thing in front of you, you will say Bhavan. If it's a feminine, you will say Bhavati. So it's a respectful you. But it has some catch. So even though it refers second person, so it will always refer the person in front of you, even though it refers second person, but it uses third person verb. So as of now, don't try to indulge in why it is so and what is the rule and all behind. Just see, because this is a very common thing in use. End of the day, there is a saying for grammar that I think applies everywhere. That is Prayoga Sharanaha Vayyakaranaha. So Vayyakaranaha is a people who deal with grammar or who work in grammar. They are called as Vayyakarana. Many are there, so Vayyakaranaha. So they cannot define words. Only what it is getting used in society, those words they take and tell that these words are good, means sadhu, or valid words or not. And it is not like Vayyakarana can make the word. Why I am telling you this is because as of now you can satisfy your desire by this principle of understanding why it represents second person but it uses verb of third person. Later at some time when you are at that level where you can understand the what it has, then we'll discuss this. So we'll just see how to use this. Bhavati ka asti. Asti is not required, but to see the like which verb is getting used, I have written. Bhavati means for lady. Ka means who. Asti, who you are. It is for a lady. So same thing if you have to say using tvam or the other thing whatever we read. So you can say tvam ka asi, who you are. Here this also is referring to second person, but it is using the second person verb also. Here Bhavati is referring to Madhyam Purusha, second person, but it is using the third person verb. Similarly, Bhavan kaha asti. So for male, who you are. And same thing, since we know here it's not gender dependent, it will be tvam kaha asi. Now question only will have gender. Kaha ka. For example of this, in Gita chapter 1 itself, you can see this. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karanascha Kripascha Samitinjaya. So here, for I think for Dronacharya, Duryodhan is telling Bhavan. So like you, Bhishma, Karna, all those things are in my side. So I was looking in the book and I saw like last time Vedas were there, and since if people are not sharing any of your exercises, I thought like you might have skipped that. So I thought to cover it today because it is something not only related with the course, but it is also a very basic thing which every one of us should know. So problem is people, I don't think like even 10% people also know any much thing about Vedas. That is fine. If people are not interesting, then it is okay. But if any debate is there, something, some argument somebody has to make, then they quote these things. It is written there. So what my way of doing or thinking is, or suggestion is like, you, if you are quoting something, quote with authority or don't do that. So you start knowing like what actually these are. Maybe you generate some interest and going forward you move further. So first thing is what the word Veda means. So Veda means in Sanskrit, everything you can go through the etymology of the word and figure out like what actually it means. So Veda is made from a dhatu or a root which is vid and is used in terms of jnane. Means in case in knowledge and all those things, this dhatu is used. Same dhatu you can use in other words like vidwan, vidvat. So same dhatu is what is in Veda, that is in vidwan. So Veda is something which is a thing which contains knowledge. Veda, it is written because we have more than two Vedas. So it is in plural. So if you see, if you read, initially there was only one. All Vedas were only one. So one complete Ek Rashi that used to say. So by the time of our Krishna, it became quite big for maintaining. And that time there was one Rishi everyone knows. So we say him, his name is Krishna Dvaipayan. Krishna Dvaipayan. So he took the work of simplifying the Veda or bifurcating the Veda in such a way like people can, it can be maintained, because Veda is something, everything in our this religion revolves around the Veda, and everyone has first responsibility, you can say, to protect Veda and carry it forward. So what he did, he expanded the Veda from 1 to 4. Since he expanded, his name became, people used to call him Vyasa. Vyasa means diameter, you can say, something which is expanded. Because he expanded Veda, he got a title of Vyasa. Otherwise, his name was Krishna Dvaipayan because he was born in some island. So from there, the name came. So when he created now four Vedas, so he took his disciples and given them one section of each or one Veda for them to, their family will read this Veda and they are the custodian of this Vedas. So that is why if some Brahmins, Ved Pathi Brahmins are there, so if you ask them their introduction, they will tell like, I belong to this Shakha. So this was the branch which was given to me, my ancestors, and that branch I have responsibility to keep it intact and keep it moving. So now everything we are writing and keeping in saving in computer, putting on cloud and all those things. At that time, you see, from thousands of years, people remembered without making any deviation or errors introduced in this and brought to us, to our generation. So if you feel this effort, then you also will feel this responsibility, like this is our responsibility to understand it and move it forward to next generations, because this all contains eternal knowledge. So let's see what Vedvyasa has expanded. So what they are. So he expanded in 4. This is Rik. Actually, this is because of Sandhis becomes Ga. Otherwise, it's a Rik. Because the shlokas in this Veda are called as Riks. They are not shlokas, they are Riks. But as of now, leave it. You can understand that these 4 are there because this is in the course. Later we'll see. So Rig, Yajur, Sam and Atharva. So these are the 4 Vedas. Classification of Vedas are done in this way also. So some part of the Veda contains knowledge. Knowledge means about goal of human life, what is Brahman, what is God, you can say in loose terms. And some part has karma kanda, like how to do puja, which yajna you should do for which for attaining what phala and like that. So where that yajna and all those things are, that is called as karma kanda, and where this thinking about Brahman or what is the use of human life, all those things are there, that is called as jnana kanda. So these are the other 2 ways people define the Veda or the classify the Veda. Each Veda contains of these 4 things. So each Veda has a section, that is Brahmana, other is Samhita, one is Aranyaka, and at the end part of most of the time a section is there that is called as Upanishad, which may be found in these Brahmanas also. But since this is at the end, because of this end, it is called as Veda Anta, which becomes Vedanta. So you might have seen people say Vedanta is a darshana or something. So it is coming at the end of Veda, that is why that is Vedanta. So these are the 4 parts you can see in every Veda. So here you say we are telling for plural, Veda means all the Vedas have Jnana Kanda and Karma Kanda. Here also we are telling Veda. Here everyone, for everyone we are using singular. So everyone has these 4 sections, or you can divide them into these 4 sections. So now to understand Vedas, there are additional Shastras. So you cannot just go and open it like a storybook and start understanding. So there are some Shastras you need to know to even to understand and to protect it also. So these are 6 Shastras. So they are called as Veda Angani. Angani means part of body or limbs, and Veda. Part of Veda. If Veda is something, then these 6 things are part of this. Without these 6 things, neither you can understand nor you can protect. So these are called as Vedangs. These are 6. They are to protect Vedas. So if Veda, if you consider it as a human body, so then you will say these other things are Angas. So there are some Karikas that which tells which is the mouth, which is eye, so which part. So that since out of this course discussion, I am not doing that. So if you see, it starts from Shiksha. Shiksha is the phonetics. First thing is the pronunciation. So if you don't know how to pronounce, you in a oral tradition, you can't survive. So that is one part, Shiksha. Then second part is Vyakaranam. So that is grammar. Then comes the Chandas, whatever the way of singing, prosody. This is Nirukta. Nirukta is like, as of today, you can understand it's like dictionary, which will tell meaning of the words, etymology. Jyotisha is astronomy. It is most people agree like it is not astrology, it is astronomy. And Kalpa is the sacrificial lore is written in your book, and it is like way of doing certain rituals. So this is in this part. So if you know this all 6 parts, or at least I would say Shiksha, Vyakarana and Nirukta, then you can start understanding the Vedic Sanskrit. So next thing in this chapter related to this is Darshana. So Darshana or the philosophy is a again a stream of knowledge or understanding where mostly, if in common layman term I say, where it is discussed like this world is made of what are the basic component, is God is there or not there, if God is there, then how it might have created, what are the goals of humans, all those things are discussed here, so they are called as darshana. So there is a big very nice meaning of this word also, but as of now you may not understand that, so it's okay. So knowing this much, darshana is philosophy. So we are talking about Indian darshana, Bharatiya darshana, or Bharatiya philosophy. So there are two kinds of philosophies. One is Astika and other is Nastika. So Astika Nastika is not the same as we understand in our daily uses. In daily uses, Astika means someone who believes in God, and Nastika means who doesn't believe in God. But in Darshana, it is other way around. Astika means some people of thought who believes in Vedas, and Nastika means who doesn't believe in Vedas. So in Astika Darshan, we have six. So six branch of Indian philosophies are there based on Vedas. So Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa, and Uttara Mimamsa. This is Vedanta. And Nastika also is six only. So four types of Bauddha darshanas, and one is Jaina, another is Charvaka. So total you can say both Astika and Nastika has six types. So this is what your book wants to understand you as of now. So along with this, there is a mention of, let me show that. Just so so in Vangmaya Parichay, this is the mention of Upanishad. So here also you see this only, again you need to know the 10 main Upanishads name and how many are there. So total 108 Upanishads are there. Among them 10 are important. Why they are important? Because our whoever leaders are there in this path, they have considered them important. Like Shankaracharya has written commentaries for these 10 Upanishads. So you can assume like the 10 are important. So we need to know what those 10 Upanishads are. So again, if you see here like Upanishad, so what is the word meaning is, Upa means near, and Nishad means you can understand Guru and getting knowledge. So getting knowledge by going near to Guru is called as Upanishad. Similar thing you can understand like Upavasa. We say, right, Upavasa. Upavasa is the word meaning is not this. What it means in samsara, that is separate thing. But word meaning is not what it means there. It is not fasting. Upa means near, vasa means staying. So staying near the God is upavasa. So if you contemplate on him, thinking about him, that will be upavasa, not fasting. Like word meaning I am telling about. Then like other word upavana. So vana means forest, upavana means something near forest. So that may be a garden, a park or something. So upa means upaveda, like that. So upa words stays same meaning everywhere. So to remember this 10 normally like important Upanishads, there is one this shloka. This is very rhyming and you can remember it very easily. Ishakena katha prashna munda mandukya tittiri aitareyam cha chandogyam brihadaranyakam tatha. So with this, I have completed everything of this chapter, and expect you all to manage your time in practicing this, and at both the places what the book exercises and at the Sakalyam also, so that you can understand this. So this is what my expectation for Griha Karyam is like. Again, I would request you to record the story Chatura Kaka in your voice. Try to pronounce, try to have variation as Kaka is thinking, like Jalam Katham Pibami. So it like you are living the story. Do like that, not like mechanical, like some mechanical voice is reading. This you may not feel like what is the worth of this, but once you will start doing this, pronouncing these things, you will understand after, I think, 6 7 chapters, like it helps without letting you know. So Vyavaharik Shabda, there is a this chapter has Shabdas about family and how father you have to tell what are the different professions and all. So that also you can learn once. Again, if you want to learn all the uh, Vyavaharik Shabdas, you want them at one place, you can download the workbook at Sakalyam. So there I have collected them all from 10 chapters and kept at one place. You can download that PDF and either read online or print it. Then do all exercises of chapter 2 in book and quizzes. So next we will meet on Wednesday, that is 28th October, and we'll do the third chapter's grammar section, that is Bhasha Abhyasa. So